Welcome to SBME Interfaces. Our goal with this show is to introduce you to the people that interface with biomedical engineering, from students and faculty to staff and industry, and everyone in between. BME is a broad field that encompasses so many different perspectives, journeys, skill sets, and backgrounds, and we are excited to share them all with you.
So we're very excited today to be interfacing with Shernaz Bamji. She's a professor in the Department of Cellular and Physiological Sciences at the School of Biomedical Engineering. She's also the Associate Director of the Djavad Mowafaghian Centre for Brain Health. She completed her undergrad and master's at University of Toronto, followed by PhD at McGill, and then a postdoc at UCSF. And she's had a long-standing interest in understanding the molecular and cellular mechanisms underlying neural connectivity and synaptic plasticity. Her work has provided valuable information about fundamental mechanisms underlying learning and memory, as well as how these processes are perturbed in disease states. And she's the incoming president of the Canadian Association of Neuroscience. Welcome, Shernaz.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So to start off, first of all, not to play favorites, but your work is probably one of the most interesting to me of all of the research that takes place across SBME. So very, very intrigued to know how the past 13 or 14 months have impacted your work, both in the lab, but then as Associate Director of the Center for Brain Health.
Yeah, I mean, this past year has been difficult for sure. The lockdown was really hard with the pause on all projects. And even now, even though the lab is fairly productive, things are getting done. We still all worry about lab culture and morale. We can go into the lab, but the lab is really different, really business-like. Yeah, the students go in, they get their job done, they get out as quickly as possible. And that's not really what we want. We want the students to, stick around, chat, help each other discuss science, etc. But some good has come out of it as well. We started a few bioinformatics projects that has generated some really interesting ideas for new projects. And one of these bioinformatics projects has even become an online resource that we're going to soon submit as a paper. And we would not have done this, if it wasn't for that lockdown. So that has been really, very positive as far as the lab goes. And then as far as the directorship, in some ways we got a lot done in our first year. And when I say we, I'm talking about myself and Lynn Raymond, who is the director of the DMCBH. We launched our strategic plan. We held a number of Kickstart grant competitions, etc. But one of the big things that we really wanted to do was build community amongst our members, because our members come from different faculties, departments, they're housed in different buildings. And obviously that had to really take a back seat because we just can't do it the way that we wanted to do it in a virtual world.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting, we've heard this from a number of faculty, that pivoting to a bit more computation work in their labs, even if they don't have expertise, but I think that's the new norm.
Yeah. And it really has, opened up our eyes to a lot of things so it sort of shifted our abilities to do science in some ways as well.
That's great. So what led you to study the brain?
I don't think there was any question that I was going to study the brain ever, even as a grad student. I don't remember making that decision. It just always seemed to be a given once I decided to do science. I love thinking about the brain, how do we learn? What makes us do what we do? This is just, I think, key important points, questions about our humanity. But what has changed is the way that I've approached it. At first I wanted to go into psychology, but after first year, I really did not like it. It was too abstract for me, at least. I mean, everyone has their own level of comfort with that. And I ended up really liking my cellular and molecular courses. And so I more or less just fell into that discipline, but again, with a focus on the brain, because I really wanted to understand, who are we, basically.
It's funny, I think you came into it too at like the best time. Like we talked a little bit to Lynn Raymond about this too, about how this last decade has essentially been like the decade of neuroscience and studying the brain. Has there been anything in particular that has really excited you, say, in the last like 1 or 2 years in terms of discovery on this front?
Oh yeah, there's just so much, and I think it's just, neuroscience is just exploding. Both with respect to tools, of course, things like CRISPR is going to impact absolutely everybody, the way we do our research, as well as, the potentials down the line. So now we can even consider, seeing whether we can target, as an example, genetic causes of a brain disorder. Before we were like, okay, well, there's a genetic cause and we got to treat it some other way. But now with CRISPR, there might be even a possibility to directly address those genetic issues. So I think that that's really quite exciting. And then this whole idea of the gut-brain axis, which is something, I mean, in my undergrad, we never talked about the stomach when we talked about neuroscience, but now, in my neuroscience 426 course in undergrad, I talk about the gut and talk about, how there really is this gut-brain axis. And, if I can plug it right now, we're even, like interested in a neuroimmuno engineer. That's going to be like a joint hire between the DMCBH and SBME. And I'm hoping that we're going to get someone who's interested in that, because I think it's a really exciting and new field.
Great. And so you kind of, maybe not say fell in love with the brain, but the brain intrigued you. And so what led you down to academia?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I really got the bug for science in general as a master's student. And again, I don't really remember thinking at that time, what am I going to do with this degree? I just really like being in the lab. So I did my PhD, and then I did my postdoc. And it wasn't until near the end of my postdoc where I thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with this? I mean, I thought about it a little bit, of course, but I was really equally interested in positions in academia and industry. And in fact, I had a job interview at Biogen IDEC, which is a company in Boston, after my interview at UBC. I really wanted to see what was out there and choose the environment that I really resonated with. Obviously I chose this, and I have not regretted that decision even for 1 minute, but it wasn't like I was just, academia or bust. I think there's a lot of really great, a lot of opportunities to do great science in different venues.
On that note, tell us about your leadership role at the DMCBH, and what is driving you right now?
So I'm the associate director of the DMCBH, as I mentioned, with Lynn Raymond, who is the director. And, I'm not exactly sure what the question is, but there really isn't much of a difference in what we do as far as, the two of us are concerned. We come up with initiatives together. We work together to put them into effect. Lynn and I are really good friends. We work together very well. There's no egos between us. We like to drink wine and discuss this, so we are perfectly on par. And both of us have a really healthy research program, and running the institute together allows us a lot more time for our labs, and we wouldn't really want to run the institute individually. And we're a really good duo, very yin and yang. She is very detail oriented, which is very important to getting things done, and I have a lot of ideas about new directions that we want to go on. As I mentioned, we're really excited about building community, really taking the neuroscience community, which is incredibly strong right now, but to a completely different level, hopefully through Kickstart grants, bringing more donor dollars in, et cetera. So there's a number of different initiatives that we're looking at right now.
So you've been part of the School of Biomedical Engineering since its inception. What excites you about it, up to now and the future of it?
I love being part of the SBME. It's been really great starting off with a fresh page and being part of growing something new, as opposed to, other departments where you have a bit of the baggage of, this is how it's always been done. Everyone seems to be really open to new ideas, new ways of thinking. But I think the thing that excites me the most is the hiring of new faculty. We've been able to hire so many great new faculty. And along the way, we've interviewed and made connections with so many amazing young scientists as well. So I think it's just been amazing, just being infused with so much new, exciting science.
Yeah, you're involved in the SBME faculty mentoring committee. So in your mind, what are the hallmarks of a good mentor?
Hallmarks of a good mentor, someone who's proactive and anticipates what the mentee will need to know. Junior faculty don't really know what they don't know. So it's not helpful just for a mentor just to answer questions, but to really help guide them, help their career development, not only scientifically, but, branding them as well, and kind of getting them entrenched in, in the larger scientific world, editorial boards, making sure that they are really active as far as chairing symposia. So, just how to position them and how to play the game in some sort of ways as well. Not just, how to get the next grant, but just how to be a good, well-renowned scientist.
So something as a side question to this is, why isn't there more training done at grad level in terms of leadership? And you're basically running your own company, I always say to people.
Yeah.
And we're diving in SBME, developing some programs, Miguel and Raquel and others. So in your mind, is there a place for that opportunity to integrate that into at least the PhD stream and the postdoctoral training? So when they come, they hit the floor running?
I don't think it ever hurts, absolutely not, to get training in, people management, et cetera. The only thing that I would say is that there's so few trainees who necessarily go on and run their own labs. And there's only so much time, so you have to kind of decide. But I think that for the trainees who definitely want to go into academia, I think that would be incredibly invaluable, because we just spend so much time just thinking about the science part of it, and then all of a sudden it's basically like you've been training all your life for one thing, and then the job that you get is at a very high level in something completely different, and it is a bit overwhelming in the beginning, absolutely. So again, when you're talking about the mentorship, I think you need a mentorship as far as just dealing with those kinds of things as well. So that's why I think a number of different mentors is really important to have, because some mentors really speak to one thing versus the other.
You spoke before about the neuroscience community and how you want to take it to the next level. UBC has a pretty strong presence, but how would you like to see that expand and grow into the future?
Yeah, so the first thing that Lynn and I really want to do is really build a sense of more community amongst our members. There's 109 members. Again, they're different buildings, different faculties, different departments. So we really want to start making people feel like they are part of an institute or a center. So that's the first thing. We want to do research retreats, faculty retreats, et cetera, to kind of make it feel a little bit more like a community. But the other thing that we think that we're really strong in is we have amazing foundational scientists, and we have amazing clinical scientists, but often and the whole purpose of the DMCBH was to put these people in the same building to really kind of foster this interaction. But even the people on the second floor don't necessarily talk to the people on the third and the fourth floors. And so to really try to get that going is something that I think is of incredible importance to us, because we think that that's where we're going to get all the great translational science being done. And so we've launched a couple of Kickstart grant competitions to foster this. So that's what we're trying to do. And of course, we're trying to also continually hire young people to keep the DMCBH young and strong and fresh.
Do you have a lot of connections with industry as well? Is there a growing industry community as well in the neuroscience field?
So I know that SBME is really strong with that, because of just the nature of your work. The nature of neuroscience, the problem is the brain is complicated, and we don't have as much industrial associations as SBME does. We won't have as many spin-off companies. There are, of course, some, but not as many. So, SBME by its very nature is more geared towards translational research, whereas neuroscience isn't necessarily. But absolutely. I mean, anything that we can do to foster those kinds of interactions with industry, where it's warranted, Lynn and I would support that 100%.
It seems the center has the same issues and benefits as the school. We're very simpatico. So UBC is starting an undergraduate program in neuroscience this September, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So what excites you about that? What's the potential of that? I think it'll be a game changer for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it is high time that UBC has an undergrad program in neuroscience. We really want to train undergrads with the skills that we want in our graduate students. We want them to have strong molecular and cellular understanding of the workings of the nervous system, understanding systems biology, bioinformatics, statistics, et cetera. And so that we can train these students to be completely poised to going into great neuroscience labs, and then they would have the confidence and the background to go into these great neuroscience labs. So I'm very excited about this. I think that, I think it's just yeah, I'm just incredibly excited about the possibility of having these students. Hopefully some of them will stay in our own labs, but I'm also very excited about, shipping them off to these great programs, all around the world.
So on a very broad, like global level, then what do you hope for the future, like say in the next 5 years for neuroscience?
Just globally, the future of neuroscience. Wow, that is a big question.
Yeah, big question.
Big question. I think that we're already kind of going there. I feel like, all the things that I would hope for neuroscience, somebody is doing. I kind of wish it was me who was doing it, like I kind of wish it was me who was pioneering the gut brain axis and stuff like that. I think that there is, neuroscientists everywhere around the world, they're jumping on the new technologies, the new imaging technologies, the new technologies and genetics and stuff like that. So I think that, neuroscientists are very, they're very pioneering, just the people who, decide to go after what, who we are. The brain are very adventurous. And so I think we're in a good place overall. So I think the future is bright with neuroscience.
So
that's not too corny.
No?
No, not at all.
Circling back to one topic that's very dear to heart to both Miguel and I is leadership. And so for you, have there been mentors and traits that you have learned from them that now you implement, in addition to leading your lab, but now being part of leading a center with Lynn and so forth?
Yeah, it's funny. I think that, and I've talked to a number of different scientists, and it seems like the PhD supervisor ends up being like it's the critical period or something like that of your life. So for me, that was Frida Miller, who is, interestingly, Frida has now joined SBME and UBC, but when I was in her lab was at McGill University. So it's kind of weird having her here. I kind of feel like even no matter what position I'm in, I feel like I'm back in her lab, and I take that kind of role, being back in Frida's lab. She's had an incredible amount of influence on me, just how I run my lab, how I interact with my trainees, how I interact with colleagues. I really do always just hear and see Frida in my mind when I think about what a perfect person would be. But even when I got here, I was assigned a number of mentors, and they've really helped me. And so they have really set the stage for how I help other mentees. They were amazing as far as, I was talking about being proactive and things like that. So they've taught me how to be a really great mentor, and Frida taught me how to be a really great, lab runner and colleague and scientist.
So with all of this going on, what do you do to unwind, or do you do you have any time to just to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, my kids now are 20 and 18, so they're getting less and less. Well, they're needing me less and less, so I do have more time to unwind, which of course meant, so because of that, I decided to get a new puppy, which means that I don't have any time to unwind anymore. So what do I do to unwind? Maybe I love to hike, so going on big long walks with my puppy is really great. Hanging out with friends and family when we can do it. I do a lot of cocktail Zooms now, which is not half as good as the real thing. And I recently took an online photography course. I'm trying to marry my love of hiking and things with my love of photography, and maybe upping my game a little bit more. So yeah, those are the kinds of things that I do to unwind. But yeah, not that much time.
Yeah.
Imagine. So if you could tell your 20-year-old self anything at all, what would it be?
My 20-year-old self. Don't stop doing the things that you love. Just keep doing them, even though you don't think that you have time, like we were just talking about. I used to do a lot of dancing, and I used to do a lot of kickboxing, and I dropped, and because of the kids and everything, I dropped it, picked it up again half-heartedly, tried to do it all, within the schedules of my kids and stuff like that. But I really kind of wish I hadn't stopped doing it in a really intensive way, So, I'd like to get back into it, but I would tell myself, don't stop being, don't stop doing the things that you love as well for other things.
Just to quickly add to that too, do you have any one piece of advice, if you could only give one piece of advice to an incoming PI, a brand new PI, what would you say to them?
One piece of advice to an incoming PI, I would say, what is the word? interacting with people. Like, it's just really important to constantly be going to meetings, networking, that's the word, networking is just so important. And for your science, I'm not talking about, like not in a schmoozy kind of way or anything like that, but the more meetings I go, I've never been to a meeting, I've never given a talk where I haven't learned something like groundbreaking. It almost seems like that's really going to impact my science. So network it's really important. It kind of just, it really just pushes your science in new and interesting directions, and you never know where the most interesting ideas are going to come from. So you don't want them just to say yes to everything, because we all get inundated and exhausted and everything like that, but as much as you possibly can, don't give up the opportunity to network and get opinions of other people from science, etc.
That's good advice. Okay, so this is the last question. Thank you for your time, of course. I asked this of everybody. So are there any particular initiatives or projects or endeavors that you're overseeing, can be personal, can be professional, that you are really excited about right now and you think we all should be excited about too?
I'm excited about so many different things. I'm so excited about things that are coming out of the lab right now, but I won't go into that. I think that maybe I'll just circle back to the DMCBH and say that I'm, really excited about, the associate directorship position. We're really excited about building community. We've got lots and lots of good ideas. We're just trying to get rid of the silly virus so that we can actually do them. We've already booked places. We're really optimistic. So we've even booked research retreat venues and things like that for the 2022. And that is the thing that exactly. That's what I'm, really hopeful for, so that we can take all these great ideas and really build community. Because I feel like we're just such amazing individual scientists. And I think that if we kind of put them together, it's just going to be exponential, the work that we can actually get out from UBC.
That's great. Thank you so much, Shernaz, for your time. I can easily say you're one of my favorite faculty members at UBC and part of the school.
Should you really be saying that, though?
It's too late. It's out there.
I can say what I want. It's our podcast. But other than Peter,
well done.
Pleasure always talking to you, and all the best with your future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks.
Thank you, Shernaz.
Bye.